So I hope everything going good. So we continue our discussion on micro ring resonator. Uh, so this is normally we abbreviate like this. So micron means the radius of the ring in micron, say sub 10 microns or several tens of micron. That can be called micro ring resonator. Ultimately, waveguide, particularly in silicon and insulator, the waveguide dimensions are sub-micrometer. So about 500 nanometer or so, as we have discussed earlier also. So two different types of micro ring resonators are there. One is called something like this. So this is your ring waveguide you can consider. Okay. And pass waveguide. This is called pass waveguide, and this is actually ring. And you have seen, you perhaps noted that it's kind of not completely ring. It is something kind of racetrack design. So this racetrack means some straight portion is there. Okay, and then maybe you can use a semicircle here and another semicircle here. And straight portion is just to accommodate the coupling, sufficient coupling between your bus waveguide to ring waveguide, right? So this is your input, and this is going to be your output. Okay, so this is one by one, one input, another one output. That type of ring resonator is frequently used for many applications, and this type of ring resonators are called all pass configuration. All pass. We'll just explain later why it is called all pass. All pass configuration. Okay. And we have seen that in this configuration, we have also derived the transfer matrix also, transfer function. And we have shown that when beta L is the perimeter, equal to 2m pi, that actually corresponding to resonance condition. Resonance condition. So m is the integer. That means m can be your 0, 1, 2, so on, integer, not 0. It should be starting from 1 basically, because beta L cannot be 0. One round trip phase cannot be 0. So it should be 2 pi and then 4 pi and so on. Okay, so that is the actually resonance condition is there. And beta, you know what is beta? Beta equal to say omega by C, n effective, and sometimes it is just we write 2 pi by lambda n effective, right? And this is all I see that, since if I just put here 2 pi by lambda, say for example n effective, and 2 pi by m pi. So right hand side m is discretized, m equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. And left hand side, what will be discretized then? N effective or lambda?
Lambda.
It can be lambda. It should be lambda basically. N effective will come to, N effective can be varying also as a function of lambda. I will just discuss that later. So lambda will be varying. For a given m, if I just consider n effective is fixed for as a function of lambda, so if m is discretized for 1, 2, 3, and so on, then lambda also will be discretized. We call that discretized lambda m corresponding to m value. So this lambda m, basically we call it a resonance wavelengths. Resonance resonant wavelength or resonance wavelength. I think that's better. Okay, this is all. I'll just a little bit proceed in this direction. Before that, another type of ring resonator I will discuss. So before discussing that, we have already understood earlier that at resonance, normally, if any resonant wavelength is feeding in the bus waveguide, that particular resonant wavelength will be stored. That particular electromagnetic wave associated to that lambda will be stored in the ring, and you will see the energy will be depleted for that, but those particular wavelengths are the output. Because it is resonant, it will be stored, right? So that means here I can say that lambda m plus 1, lambda m plus 2, also lambda m minus 1, lambda m minus 2. So all these, depending on this different order of resonance, I would say different order of resonance, corresponding lambda having electromagnetic wave, having resonances, resonant wavelength, all this, they will be stored, right? So if that is stored, one can think of that another type of device, kind of ring resonator, something like this type of configuration. Racetrack we are writing again, and you can have one bus waveguide, all pass configuration. And I know that if I just launch here lambda m, say all wavelength, I say suppose this is continuous wave, sorry. Suppose you have a continuous wave, CW things are there. That means CW continuous wave, but all wavelengths you are launching. You are just tuning your input wavelength of the input electromagnetic wave. You are tuning all wavelengths, right? So then you know, because of the resonance condition, only this lambda m or lambda m plus 1, so on, those wavelengths will be stored, and that will be missing here, right? So you can imagine that suppose you have a input lambda and certain intensity you are launching at the input electromagnetic wave, some value is there, normalized you can consider 1, then at the input you are supposed to see that you are launching all the wavelength with same intensity. Okay, let me clarify that one better. That will be, so I'm just putting like this. Okay, this is your lambda and this is your intensity. If I just consider intensity of the input electromagnetic wave or laser source, if it is flat, fixed for all wavelength, you are launching like that, right? Then you can consider that is some 1 watt or something like that you are launching. But at the output here, you see that this particular resonance wavelength, that will be missing. So in the transmission, you will see that something will be missing depending on the. So this is actually what I see, that this resonance wavelength will be this particular wavelength that will be stored and that will be missing in the output, right? So now I see a certain kind of characteristics at the output. Now if I just put something, for example, another bus waveguide here, okay, and you are launching here, light coupled here, and then it keeps on circulating like this, right? I'm launching here. So shall I get something output here? I have 1 input, 3 output ports, for example, at this point of, in this situation. I'm launching here. I have access 3 output. Output 1, output 2, output 3. So can we, is there any chance that I will be getting some output at 2? Because I know that because of the resonance condition, all these wavelengths are stored. And these waveguides, are coupled to the second Bass waveguide, right? Now my question is there any chance that some of the power corresponding to lambda AIMS will appear in port 2 or not?
No, sir.
Huh?
No, sir. Power won't come in port 2, but it will come in port 3.
It will come. It will not come because your light is actually propagating in this direction. So this is your input waveguide. If you are considering this as a directional coupler, so you are launching here, you're supposed to get output here and here. So some part you will be getting here. This one will be there. So in 2, you will not get anything, right?
Sir, but like once it's resonant condition, isn't it like a standing wave? So there's no such direction associated anymore, right?
That's a good point. So normally we know for any resonance, I will not say any resonance. For resonance condition, most of the time we see that some kind of resonance, a standing wave generated, right? Particularly if you are just considering a kind of cavity like this. Then if you are launching partial mirror is there, so this round trip is 2m pi, then you will get some forward propagating wave, backward propagating wave, and standing wave will be generated, and that is a resonance condition, right? But here we also consider beta L equal to 2m pi resonance waveguide and resonance condition. And in this case, if we are launching light from this side and light couples in this direction, so is there any chance that opposite direction the wave will be propagating? If it is ideal, of course, no scattering, backward scattering, everything you are ignoring. So no chance, right? So no backward direction propagation is happening, right? So in this particular situation, still it is considered as a resonance, though it is not a standing wave. So this is the interesting part of the ring resonator, that it is resonant but no standing wave. Okay, it is a traveling wave resonance condition, traveling this one way propagation. So no counter propagating waves are there in a ring, right? So that is the reason it's not necessarily that all the time you need to have a standing wave for resonance condition.
Okay, sir, but is there any like then? So basically, what's happening is like the light is interfering with itself, right? Like
True.
Right. So is there any condition on how long that light pulse has to be or something like that?
I'm not discussing about pulse.
Right.
I'm considering continuous wave light, maybe sinusoidal wave is there, but all frequencies are there.
Okay.
And then something is coupling here while forward propagating, something supposed to go outside. Now, see what situation happens. When one round trip comes back, then fraction of power again comes back here, and some fraction will go here. After one round trip I'm talking. Now you see the resonance condition happens. Suppose whatever the first thing it is coming, say E1 for example, and after one round trip you are getting E2. And after third round, maybe you are getting E3. And fourth round, maybe E4, so on. So all you add together, that is what you're supposed to get in the output here, right? If you add them together, because it takes one round trip, and every round trip it acquires some phase shift here, but when crossing over, you know, there is a pi/2 phase shift happens. So whenever you are launching here, in a directional coupler, you have seen earlier, no? So anything you launch here, if something coupling to the ring, pi/2 phase shift happens, right? And one round trip means 2 pi. And then when again coupling outside, pi/2, 2 pi, and then again pi/2. So what is the phase acquired after one round trip when it is coming here? Suppose if I just compare E1 and E2, what is the phase difference? E1 is the just first through whatever I am considering. I am just not considering the feedback. First, I have E0, and then I see that at a first instant, that will be E1. And then one round trip, whatever coming out again, that is E2. then whatever going into that one for that particular field again come back, that is actually E3. So I'm just considering whatever coupled, that coupled field, every round trip, whatever contributing to the output. So if I ask you that what is the phase difference between E1 and E2?
3 pi.
It's a pi basically, right?
Yeah.
Because 2m pi and additional pi. So that means E1 and E2, they actually destroy each other. Isn't it? Here in the output. And E3 again, E3 again comes back because E1 is the majority part. And after whenever one round trip coming, E2 is much, much lower. E3 even lower, E4 even lower. Each round trip they are contributing lower. So all this coming together, they actually giving at resonance condition output is a destructive interference. However, whatever going here and after one round trip, since it is 2 pi, so they will build. That is what's constructive interference happening every round trip at this particular point. So that's why it is building. Every round trip means it is building. Energy is being built. Okay. So that is how it is a traveling wave, but it is a resonance condition. So no standing wave is happening here. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now here also when I went launching here, so light is coupled here and that there is no other source. No here I am sourcing. So it will be coupled and lambda m plus 1, all the resonant wavelength will be supposed to be stored here. But since there is a directional coupler here, so what will happen? Something can be appeared here. Whichever stored, lambda 1, lambda m plus 1, that will be stored in the ring. And since it is again coupled with a directional coupler, it will appear here. So that means I am launching all the wavelength here. And this device, what is doing? It is separating lambda m's. Lambda m, lambda m plus 1. So these wavelengths, basically it can separate. So we are dropping from all wavelengths, I'm dropping these things. But what I would do, suppose instead of no output access, because there is no output, but what we could do, if I just try to launch m plus 1 and so on here, what will happen? Because those are resonant. If I launch, that will couple to the ring. So when it will couple to the ring, then again those lambda m plus 1, again it will appear here. So this particular device is very interesting. If I have some channels, some data is there in these wavelengths. Those data I can separate. Those particular channels I can separate here. So in the output, those channels will be missing. But I can add some more data with same wavelength. I can encode data, same wavelength. I can actually add again to utilize my full bandwidth. So I can drop here, and in this port I can add also. So some channels, required channel, desired channels, I can drop in this port. With certain data I can access. I can send that data to certain destination. At the same time, to utilize my bandwidth, I can send some other data information, the same wavelengths, and add there, and I can just sum up here. Then I can get all the wavelengths again in this path, and I have this data, additional data I can send to some other place. So this type of device, it's called add drop. I just capital I'm writing here. Add drop ring resonator. Add drop configuration. So this is called all pass configuration, and this is this type of when two bus waveguides are there, that is called add drop ring resonator. Okay, both are actually equally used in integrated photonics. Okay, Sometimes we are using this for some certain applications. Sometimes we use this type of things for certain other applications. So it need not be that this bus waveguide need not be just parallel to this one. You can have a bus waveguide something like this here also. You need to pick certain value. So that way, normally you can design your integrated photonic circuits. Any question till this point? Okay, I'll just discuss, because more or less I have extracted transfer function for all pass configuration. I'll come back to the airdrop configuration also, similar type of transfer function, how it is looking like. Before that, I want to just ask you one thing. Okay, suppose n effective known. Okay, and known, and it is wavelength independent. Is that possible really in practical case? Independent. My question is, can you design a waveguide which is wavelength independent?
So then your phase velocity would be 0.
Yeah, that's no. How? I said that independent of wavelength. It is not 0 basically, or infinity. I said that.
No, group velocity, not phase.
Group velocity will be
0, right? Like D.
No. That's not correct. That's not correct.
You'll get constant. You'll get constant.
Constant, right? So it is constant. N effective lambda constant. So group velocity may not be. What do you call that? Group velocity is actually equal to phase velocity, we would say. In that case,
Yes.
I'll come to that point. So my question is this possible practically? N effective, you can design a waveguide which is wavelength independent. Silicon you consider. Any other silicon or whatever waveguide geometry you can have, which is wavelength independent. Effective index is wavelength independent. You have calculated effective index, right? For a certain waveguide for certain wavelength. I have just given earlier example that okay, lambda equal to 1550 nanometer you consider, and you consider certain waveguide, and you have this is the reef structure, and this is your W, and this is your total age, and this is your age value, and numerical method and analytical, semi-analytical method for a given WH small h, you can find out for lambda equal to 1550 what is the N effective for fundamental mode. You have calculated N effective for first order mode, and then N effective for 2 mode. And yeah, can you just speak up? Who is just writing notes? Rishabh? Oh, so your mic is not working, Rishabh. Okay, so see that, yes sir, from phase matching condition one can calculate lambda. Phase matching condition one can. No, my question is, suppose it is a single mode waveguide, I calculated N effective 0 is there. This is not, solution may be there, but they are not supported. They are leaky modes. So N effective 0 I have calculated at lambda equal to 1550 nanometer, right? So now if I vary this lambda to say 1551 nanometer, so is this possible that this waveguide design such that you can have a particular set WH and small h such that I can say that N effective, this is lambda 1, this is lambda 2. N effective lambda 1 should be equal to N effective lambda 2. Is that possible at any way? This is my question.
I don't think for any material medium it is possible, sir. Like only in vacuum does the.
It is vacuum is possible, yeah. Vacuum always is possible, and material medium normally we know that it is wavelength dependent. It's a material medium, material things. But normally, if I just see silicon lambda and refractive index for silicon, simply if you see, okay, it is, if you see normal dispersion, it is looking like this, refractive index for silicon. So if I just consider this is a 1550 nanometer, so this is for example 1550 nanometer, so I can say that from say 1500 to 1600, if I just consider, within that the refractive index variation will be there, of course some variation will be there, but there so small variation is that you can neglect. So you can assume that refractive index for silicon from 1500 to 1600 is nearly flat. Does it mean I can design a waveguide which will be also the guided mode will be also flat as a function of wavelength? Yeah. Hello? Any answer?
Depends on the material. Like if we use a calcite crystal or something, then maybe.
No, I think you see, normally when you calculate n effective in effective index method, for example, in your expression, do you use lambda value?
Yes, sir.
So since your effective index, whenever you are calculating theta or something like that, that involves lambda. So if lambda is changing, effective index has to be theta, everything will be changing. Right? So that is called waveguide dispersion. Material dispersion can be negligibly small. This is silicon I'm considering. But in the waveguide, it is again, if you calculate, that is a lambda dependent, must be lambda dependent. So some waveguide dispersion is there. Typically, that waveguide dispersion is more prominent than material dispersion, waveguide dispersion. So ineffective is basically lambda dependent. It is very difficult to design, even though materials, say box or top oxide, whatever, they are maybe within the wavelength range. They can be excuse me, they can be material dispersion can be ignored, negligibly small within the wavelength range of our interest. But when you calculate the effective index of the guided mode, there actually some additional dispersion you will see, because your calculation involves lambda, and that is much stronger than this one. Okay, so you know, three different type of dispersion we should consider. One is material dispersion, another is just waveguide dispersion. Waveguide dispersion means a single mode waveguide or multi-mode waveguide. If you are focusing only on one mode, if you change the wavelength, the effective index of the guided mode is going to change. That is called waveguide dispersion. But when I see that mode to mode, the effective index is also different, right? And that is called modal dispersion. So I will have one is called modal dispersion, material dispersion. Material dispersion. Second is modal dispersion. And third is waveguide dispersion. Of course, waveguide dispersion basically part of modal dispersion. Okay, all these dispersions are there. So what I want to say right now, that the n effective is a function of lambda always. But for the moment, I'm just considering, let us just assume n effective is wavelength independent. That is strong assumption, forced assumption. Okay, forced assumption. It is not really. Then when I see in all pass configuration, suppose this is lambda, okay, and this is your intensity output, I output, power output, for example, and then I know that certain wavelength, if you see here, so certain wavelength, it will be dropping at the output, all pass configuration, all pass, that means only one bus entering, all pass configuration, and certain wavelength will be missing in the output. Right? And I hope all of you are having a pen and paper in front of you, right? I want to give you 30-second time. N effective is wavelength independent, lambda independent, you are considering. And this ring is, perimeter is L. Okay, that is given. So you know beta L equal to 2m pi, that is known. Now I am considering this is lambda m. And this is, for example, another resonant wavelength which is missing in the transmission, lambda m plus 1. Obviously, lambda m plus 1 is larger than lambda m because this is lambda, axis is lambda. Now, can you quickly calculate what is the value of this one? Quickly. Will that be something constant, or what would be the expression for this? N effective known, L known, L also known. I want to find out a general expression for lambda m plus 1 minus lambda m. What would be the value? Quickly, can you just keep, I'm giving you 30 seconds. Can anyone tell me what would be the value?
N effective L by 2 pi.
N effective L by
2 pi. I think.
Really?
Oh, just N effective L. I think 2 pi will also cancel.
So only N effective L. You see, I have 2 pi by lambda m N effective.
Ah, yeah, you'll get on
L, that should be equal to 2m pi, and 2 pi lambda m plus 1 N effective L equal to 2 times m plus 1 pi. I have this expression. Now
we should put in the chat. I think that is. We should put the answer in the chat. That is.
So you are putting answer in the chat. NL by m into m plus 1. I think you just find an expression which is m independent. I don't know what is the m value. M can be eliminated, you see. It is 2m pi and it is 2m pi plus 2 pi. So if you subtract, you can eliminate m. If you subtract this equation and this equation, you can eliminate m. And from there, you will be able to find some certain kind of expression like this.
Sir, is it lambda m square by n effective L?
Lambda m square by
N effective L. Like assuming lambda m plus 1 and lambda m are close to each.
Actually, in principle, that will be like this. Lambda m times lambda m plus 1 by n effective L. If you just subtract these two, then you're supposed to get this one. Assuming that lambda m plus 1 equal to, say, maybe you can consider 1551, and lambda m you are considering, say, 1550. So when you multiply lambda m plus 1 times lambda m, you will be seeing approximately equal to lambda m square. So that's why you can write lambda m square by n effective L. So what does it mean? If I ask you that their separations are this separation and this separation identical or not? Yes or no? I have all these resonances. So I found that lambda m plus 1 minus lambda m is something like this expression, n effective L. Now if I just go for this to this, will that be similar? The value will be same.
No, sir.
So it is a lambda dependent. As you go away from this one, lambda independent, so it is basically lambda dependent. So their separation is lambda dependent. Clear? Next question. Suppose you are calculating corresponding angular frequency. Okay? Or maybe you are considering corresponding frequency, nu m and nu m plus 1. Which one will be higher? Nu m or nu m plus 1? Which will be higher? Corresponding nu m, linear frequency. Corresponding nu m plus 1. Which one will be higher? Lambda m plus is longer. So, you know they are inversely proportional. Simply you know this one, this expression is equal to nu lambda. So higher lambda means lower frequency. So obviously lambda m is greater than lambda m plus 1. Okay. Now if I ask you to calculate nu m minus nu m plus 1, what is the expression for this one? Nu m is now bigger, larger. What would be the expression for that? So in this case, your beta L equal to, you are writing 2m pi, and instead of beta, I will be writing omega by c, omega m by c, n effective L equal to 2m pi. That is one equation. And omega m plus 1 by c, n effective L equal to 2m plus 1. Sorry. Sorry, what would be that? 2m? Yeah, right, it was correct. It was 2m plus 1 pi, right? So in that case, if I try to find out omega by c, instead of omega by c, I can write 2 pi nu m by c, n effective L equal to 2m pi, and 2 pi nu m plus 1 by c, n effective L equal to 2 m plus 1 pi, right? So now if you subtract this to this you subtract, then what you get? You get first one to second one, because this is bigger. So nu m minus nu m plus 1 times 2 pi c n effective L should be equal to, oh no, basically since it is larger, so I have to write the other way. That's wrong. We have to write here 2m plus 1 pi here, and this one we have to write. I hope it is clear, right? Yeah. So it is 2m pi. So in this case, we will be writing 2 times pi if we just subtract. 2 pi cancel, right? And then nu m minus nu m plus 1 equal to c by n effective L. You understand? So in this case, if I just try to see the frequency domain separation, they are actually frequency independent or wavelength independent. So in that case, if I just plot instead of lambda, just x-axis is new and p output, okay, p output is there, and then output will be just, we'll have one drop here and then another drop here, then another drop, sorry. So that will be regular spacing. Okay, and so on like this. Okay, so that means this is actually, you can consider, if this is your new m minus 1, this will be your new m and new m plus 1. So frequency domain I am just considering. So their separation, basically what you can have, they are actually equal spacing in frequency domain, provided n effective is wavelength independent or frequency independent, lambda independent. So if n effective is lambda independent, then their separation, I know that which particular wavelengths will be missing in my transmission. Okay, so this particular spacing is very important for designing any device, integrated photonic device. Okay, and that is called actually so-called FSR. You know what is that? Have you heard about this FSR?
Spectral range.
Huh?
Spectral range.
Free spectral range. FSR means free spectral range. So this free spectral range is an important figure of merit of the ring resonator. But it's, so figure of merits, if I just consider.
So this FSR also comes in the laser
Yes, yes.
modes, right?
Because there also you have a resonance
Resonance.
condition comes. So that is a FSR comes. I will come to that point later. So figure of merits of a micro ring resonator is, one important thing is FSR, free spectral range. What is the spatial separation or frequency separation between the resonances, successive resonances? Any other figure of merit you can think of other than FSR for a micro ring resonator?
WH.
Huh?
Full width at half maximum.
Full width at half maximum. So this is important thing, full width at half maximum. That's correct. What is that? Because if you just see the resonance, particular resonance, if you concentrate, so you just considering only lambda m or nu m. So this is lambda and this is your output. So what do we mean by full width at half maximum? Suppose you are considering this value is 1. So then you can find a particular point. So if it is 1, I think not this one. If it is 1, so you can have, this one is your maybe half point. Yeah. So this is your 0.5, right? So in this case, full width half maximum, we can consider this one. This is the separation, this wavelength and this wavelength. Normally the resonance, it is not a single wavelength. It has a particular bandwidth. So to distinguish that, we can have some kind of characteristics called FWHM, full width at half maxima. We can just define like that. Now, can you tell me this FWHM, full width at half maximum, depends on what? What? Because that thing is basically normal resonance condition. If I see in our ideal all pass configuration that a particular lambda, that will be resonant. If you just deviate from that, that is not resonant. In principle, that will not be stored at all. That will come back. But we see that some bandwidth will be there. So that bandwidth depends on what? any resonator, even in electrical circuit, you know, resonator
Depends on the wavelength.
depends on wavelength. That's true. Suppose you are considering, have you, I think you have studied some point of time the electrical circuit, that LCR circuit, resonance circuit, Q halos, you heard there, right? So
Yes,
a
sir.
resonance circuit. So from that point of view, can you just explain that?
Hello.
So that the Q value depends on how broad your bandwidth is, isn't it? Quality factor. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Quality factor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So-
it's broader if you have like
So it
more
is also
losses.
Hello.
more losses. Yeah. So that depends on what is the loss in the cavity. So far we have not used any loss in the ring, right? If I just consider like this, in our derivation of ring resonator, have we considered loss? When we discussed our all pass configuration, all the transfer function we are deriving, that time have we considered loss? We have used one parameter, you remember, that is A. What is that?
Loss
Or
factor.
minus alpha.
So loss factor, that is actually e to the power minus alpha L, right? So loss I have considered. So depending on that A, I think this FWHM, value of FWHM is there. So not only A, you have to see that suppose I'm launching here and some fraction is coupling here, right? So suppose it is 5% coupling. Then after one round trip, whatever value is existing after A, 5% of that will be again coupling out, right? So that means once I push in some electromagnetic wave, it keep on running as a traveling wave inside, but every round trip it comes to the coupler, it loses something. So that means this coupler also contributes to loss also. So two things, this coupler is helping me to couple light inside, and also it is actually some way it is also depending on its value, you can see how much energy you can store inside. Because every round trip, how much will be coming out also, that also matters. And how much loss is there, that also matters. So depending on that, actually this FWHM, that full width height of maxima depends. So FWHM in practical point of view, it is fine as a good figure of merit, but we have defined like a electrical circuit, a resonance LCR circuit or RC circuit or whatever. So there also we use like a Q value. Here also we define another figure of merit, Q value. Q value means depending on the losses and other parameters, we define a certain parameter. What does it mean, Q value? Normally when we learn Q value for a resonator in circuit, for example, what it signifies? Anyone? What do we mean by Q value of a resonator? It's a Q means quality. It's a quality factor. It is actually Q value means quality factor basically. What does it mean? What signifies?
Energy, energy that is given out by total energy taken.
So I think in like resonant. Sorry. go
No,
on.
just think about, just okay. I'm just giving you to think instead of just textbook like definition. I'm just giving you an idea. Suppose you are launching CW wave. Okay. So it is continuously you are pumping. And every time you are launching every time means continuously you are just per unit time, you are just coupling some value. You are inserting. injecting, I would say, injecting some power every per unit time, how much you are injecting at this point, you know that, right? And per unit time, again, how much fraction will be coming out, you know that. That is a steady state condition. In steady state condition, it is not that at resonance continuously we are pumping, means because it is resonance condition, everything will be stored. So because you can have a laser source and you are coupling here, and I know that a lambda m cannot be escaped, you don't get here, does not mean that all the energy you are pumping in, that will be stored in the ring. I see that that is not coming out. True. Does it mean that I just 1 hour I keep on pumping, all the energy will be stored here? What do you think? Think like that instead of just textbook like definitions. Any answer? What this type of situation can arise, right? Come on, someone at least answer. What could be the reason? What could be the Parth? You tell me. Parth, Rishabh, Jaswant, I see. Any answer?
Sir, could you repeat it once?
Oh, my question is not clear, right? I am saying that I know that this resonant wavelengths, lambda m plus 1, that will be stored here, and at resonance that will be missing in the throughput, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I know that continuously I am launching at lambda m, CW, continuous wave. Lambda m wavelength, I have just chosen one resonant wavelength, and continuously that particular wavelength is coming, some laser emitting that particular wavelength, and I am launching continuously. And I know that I am just continuously feeding power here, but that is missing at the output. So can I not expect that I am just launching so much time, maybe 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, everything will be stored in the ring, all the energy. If I keep on switching on, what will happen? All the energy is going there, and because all the energy I'm not getting outside. What is happening to all this energy I'm just pumping in?
Sir, eventually, I think like if the intensity keeps increasing too much in the waveguide, you can have some like
burning, yeah?
Yeah, like temperature could increase, burning can happen, or like even like the higher order polarizations might start taking.
Non-linearity you are thinking, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, so ultimately you are just concluding that even non-linearity that exceeds everything, so that is a condition of destruction, right? Completely burning out. So if you just have a ring resonator and resonant wavelength, you are launching light and keep running for few seconds, few minutes, days, then one point of time you will see that some burning will occur, right? Some fireworks will break in.
Not so much, sir. It might just like the waveguide might melt a little bit or something.
Yeah,
like
so it will melt and it will be device will be destroyed. Is that the thing?
Might be. I'm not so sure. Or we can like it might change the refractive index that we're expecting, and like again we can have leaky modes in that case.
I think I just want you to think a little more intelligently. Okay, this is just a normal thinking you are saying. Just apply a little bit more, little more intelligence, and what will happen? Continuously my laser is on, and I know that in the output it's a resonance condition, and it is critical coupling. I have discussed last time also that in critical coupling your output, whatever you launch, output is 0. A equal to T whenever you are just A equal to R whenever you are writing, right? So in that case, normally your whatever at all resonant wavelength, your throughput is 0. That means where this power is going then. And you believe that that particular resonant wavelength inside the ring, there is a more energy. Field strength should be more, right? Field enhancement will be there in the ring. But how far you can enhance? How much it will be there? Can we use this as a energy sink? Just energy storage device? Just I switch on sometimes the, okay, let me put this way. I switch on maybe 30 seconds, the laser, then switch off. What will happen?
So like if we consider some kind of loss, little loss also, like again going back to the analog of
there.
optical cavity, then it will leak out into the
It
second
will be,
part, right?
it will be lost. It will be lost for sure. If I just put a certain amount of power, 30 seconds I switch on, and then I just switch off, then that inside light will be, this will be slowly, it will be leaked out completely, then it will be vanished, right? So
Yes,
that
sir.
loss is present already.
Then
So-
it will leak out.
So that means I keep on pumping at steady state. You will see that depending on the capability of the ring resonator, some power, some energy will be stored, and rest of the things, even though you are launching, that will be lost completely. That will be leaked because scattering loss is there. It is not that completely lost. Scattering loss, coupling loss, everything is there. So that means at steady state, certain power will be stored in the cavity depending on the losses. And even though you are launching, the insides are its steady state condition will be built. Power is going, that means whatever coming, whatever extra power is coming, that is actually getting lost. But obviously certain energy is being stored. Now we need to know how much that energy being stored in steady state. That is actually quality factor. So that is the quality factor, because depending on the loss, coupling strength, I can say that this much energy now in steady state condition, this ring resonator is storing. If I change the loss mechanism, then this energy can be different. Stored energy can be different. It will store a certain steady state amount. It will not increase indefinitely as long as certain kind of loss is there. And obviously, if you have a certain ring, for example, this ring, somehow, some way, you inject some, and it is lossless, inject some power, then, and you withdraw everything and keep it alone. And if it is lossless, that energy will be staying forever. But that never happens. That ideal situation never happens practically. So loss will be there practically. Certain amount loss will be there. Even loss is very minimal. Maybe 1 photon per second, maybe it will be losing. That situation is always there, practical situation. You cannot think completely ideal things. So loss will be there. So depending on the loss, how much power it will be stored. So even though loss is very less, very minimum, in spite of that, if you are launching a certain just 1 milliwatt power, 1 milliwatt power means 1 millijoule per second you are launching, right? 1 millijoule per second energy you are feeding. In steady state, that 1 millijoule will be lost also per second. Though a certain amount of energy will be stored from the initial stage. In steady state, if you are pumping 1 millijoule per second, 1 millijoule per second will be lost at steady state. But that steady state, okay, whatever I am bringing, same thing is being lost, but at the same time, I have certain energy stored in my ring resonator. At that energy, if I want to quantify, that is actually Q value. In next class, I'll be just discussing about this FSR, FWHM, Q values. Okay, and before that, they are very important because this ring resonator is very, very important for all sorts of applications, including linear to nonlinear to very detector, demodulator, all sorts of applications are there. So I'll be discussing a little more in depth. Today I stop here.